I, Raja, mighty Bengal tiger. I'm going to speak in man's language to tell you about life with the cruel handler, Kimberly, who thinks he's tamed me. I, Raja, a tiger humbled, a tiger subdued. That's his mistake. He thought himself quite satisfied with my docility in allowing him to put his head in my mouth. But first, he must remember how I was hunted, and this will explain the great shame and burning thirst for revenge that has dried up my royal soul during my 5 years of captivity. I was born in the remote areas of Ramahal, 15 leagues from the Ganges, which is to say in the very heart of Bengal. My father was the pride of the tigers in the region, and consequently enjoyed the darkest reputation among men. More than 30 men had instantly left this world after encountering him, and it's fair to say that my father had sought out and desired these encounters, and felt, from a very young age, the pride of our high lineage. My greatest hope was to become what my father was, a devourer of men. Yes, a man-eater. This label spoke loudly of our valor, strength, and audacity. The entire jungle was ours before. Then the men came. Why did they come to the jungle? We didn't go to their fields, and since our food was the same, there was no possible peace. But back then, my father, in the prime of his life, was the dark king of Bengal, and no one, neither the wolf, nor the peasant, nor the hunter, failed to tremble to the very core of their nerves at the mere possibility of suddenly seeing the terrifying image of my father appear upon turning a corner. Several times, death campaigns had been launched against him, and he had almost always managed to attract the line of beaters to drive game out of the woods and into the open. But at one time, he was forced to jump on the hunters under a hail of bullets. As a result, 2 fewer hunters lived in the world, and on his part, my father was left with only 1 eye. But on the other hand, what respect and terror he incites in the hearts of men. What immense pride in his cub, and what disdain he had for the cowardly masters of the world. This disdain lost him and us that ultimately led to his own downfall. This had a negative impact on the rest of the brood. I was then 4 months old. My father showed real pleasure in me, and more than once he allowed me, although grumbling, to try out my tender claws on his thick skin, to practice my hunting skills. From 3 months onwards, he often took me with him, and although his attacks then were not against large game, it proved to be excellent training for me. So one afternoon I was accompanying him to the creek, when my father suddenly stopped short with an imperceptible grunt. I also stopped, and as I watched, he remained completely still, slowly turning his head from side to side without moving a muscle. This sudden caution was my first alarm, and I confess that it filled me with immense fear. You see, for us, any unusual noise or unknown footprint is a warning sign, putting us on high alert as if we need to be prepared to defend ourselves against a formidable threat, like a buffalo.
I take a good look at this,
my father said.
It's a human footprint.
He pointed out on the damp earth a long and wide footprint at one end, quite similar to ours, but much longer. I gazed at the enemy track with a strong heartbeat. So it was from men, from the masters of the world. These belonged to all of them, but not from my father. One by one, my father had taken down 30 of those formidable opponents. 30! A spark of childish pride ignited in my gaze. As an answer, my father tucked his tail under his belly and with his snout to the ground, he sniffed one by one the footprints, grunting softly. We returned in silence, with immense caution not to make the same mistake again.
I found human tracks by the stream,
my father said as he entered the cave.
Have they seen you?
My mother asked, very worried.
Oh no, but they haven't discovered us. The track stops about 100 meters from the cave. They'll be here tomorrow.
My father had been a hunter and prey for too long to be wrong about this. But since it's a safety rule for tigers not to leave the den until we feel we're really being attacked, we didn't move. It was 6 a.m. when the first cry was heard. My mother was sleeping, and I thought my father was too, but looking closely I saw his eyes fixed on the ground, since he had his head resting on his hands. Then his eyes became glued to the cave's entrance, watching out for any threats. New voices pierced the thicket and reached us, coming much closer. My father stood up suddenly. In an instant, my mother did the same. I turned questioning eyes to my father.
Yes, they're close,
He said in a choked roar, its deep notes echoing in the cave. The enemy was getting closer. The beaters' shouts grew louder, and a moment later, a dull noise began to be felt. The bamboos were being violently struck. Thus, in a perfect circle, the beaters advanced, striking, shouting, closing in relentlessly, forcing the trapped animals into that vast net. My father, seized with vivid agitation, was pacing back and forth from the depths to the entrance of the cave. He would stop at each turn, listening intently, and opening his mouth in a yawn that revealed all his teeth, before returning to the depths again. I say yawn because that's what it looked like at the time. However, I later learned through experience that such a gesture can be a sign of tension or threat rather than relaxation, and doesn't guarantee safety for the one who makes it. The circle was closing in tighter and tighter. I could now hear the insults that the beaters were hurling at my father.
Tio, aren't you ashamed to hide there?
This was one of the insults hurled at my father by the beaters, trying to goad him into coming out of the cave.
You're more cowardly than a rat, skinny uncle. You dirty yellow chicken son of a jackal. You nephew of a cobra, we are coming to get you.
And the plot thickens. Find out if the tigers can find a way to escape. Simply click the link below to listen to the rest of the story in audiobook format. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and click on the like button. Thank you for watching.